Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, bringing topics, guests, and issues from near and far.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, where we talk about topics and issues from near and far. I am your host, January McKay, and today I am just elated to have my councilwoman, Walla Blegay, here today to have a conversation. Today we are here with our honorable Vice Chair of the Prince George's County Council, Walla Blegay. You know, it's always just such a pleasure to sit before you. So thank you so much for having us today, and I just look forward to having this conversation with you.
I appreciate you, and it's always good to have conversations with you, and I look forward to really fruitful discussion. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, you know, you are my councilwoman, which I'm so proud of. You've been doing an amazing job, and I believe the community is just very pleased and grateful to have someone like you sitting in a position where you are actually moving and being as you said you would during your candidacy, and to see that play out now that you are in this role as the vice chair of the county council is beautiful, to see that truly come forth. And so first I want to ask, what was it that really moved you to run for the position of county council?
Well, I would just say this, it's really commitment to my community, and really I want our community to work. At one point, Prince George's County was the most affluent, wealthiest African American county, and typically in the history of America, when we look at communities, people always say for Black communities of color is usually poverty and all of the things, all of the issues, concerning issues in the community comes with living in a Black community. I grew up in Washington, D.C., where in the middle of the crack epidemic, where there was drugs, where there was problematic schools, high crime. But Prince George's County is a breath of fresh air because it changes that narrative, and I want it to work.
Wow. So I think that's great that your experiences, your lived experiences, is what has driven you to this place, and just making sure that we continue to uphold within our community this standard of excellence and affluence. That is impressive. And so what are some things that you are really looking forward to doing as a member of the county council to continue to uphold this status for our gorgeous Prince George's?
And I'm glad you asked that question. That's been some of the actions that the council has done, the People's Council. And I want to start by focusing on the fact that we changed the council. When I was running, you asked why. One of the reasons why I decided to run is that many brought up to me that many of our residents did not feel like their concerns were being heard, feeling ignored. And I understood, I saw things. We had text amendments throughout our community where they were changing the zoning in communities and not even informing them. When you change a zone of a text amendment, that is a process of usurping the actual active participation of the community. So now a community member will not be a part of the zoning change, will not be a person of record. So we're just trying to change that. And that's one of the things that when I got on the council, council, as you said, that many are saying, that's what I wanted to do. Make sure that people felt like they were a part of the decision making in their community. And that's why we did the repeals when I first got in. When we first got in, the People's Council said, I can say that no developer, no particular business put me in this position. This was totally the consideration of voters. Voters actually read the information that I sent to their doors and they considered me. And that's for most of my colleagues that got in. When we got in, we said we cannot do the same thing of our predecessors because we came in a different way, and people actually said, okay, we want something different. So we're not going to take the usual tickets and vote that. We're going to vote who we feel is more qualified. So now that I'm in, I had to make a different move, and I had colleagues who were willing to support. Number one, we did the repeals in our community. Why? Because these were text amendments where, again, no public participation. We even put forth a bill that would even make sure that there is some sort of notification in the community if you want to do a text amendment. We looked at repeals of townhomes going on Church Road, going on the Frank Nursery, different areas where people are saying, I have a concern about this, and the zoning is changed without their participation. So we did those repeals to make it clear to the developer community, we're not anti-development. We just want quality development. So this is about controlling our development. Number two, we are addressing oversaturation. That is the biggest concern of the residents when I knocked on the 10,000 plus stores that I knocked on, seeing tobacco stores at every corner popping up. And we do believe this is anticipation of cannabis. So what we did, no more 24-hour tobacco stores. They can be only open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. No more neon lighting. We don't want to see that. But now, all of the tobacco stores have to move into the industrial zone in the next 2 years. Legally, we cannot stop tobacco stores in a day if they were permitted at one point. Legally, we have to give them time. So we've given them 2 years. But we also noticed that a lot of convenience stores are coming in our community, and then all of a sudden you see these tobacco signs. So we wanted to address that too. 5% or less of more of tobacco products, you're considered a tobacco store, even cannabis paraphernalia, and you got to move into the industrial zone. So we're trying to do a catch-all, and that bill is currently sitting in the it's going to be going before in second reading right now, so that's going to be coming up. Next is the public storage. We saw that in our community, public storage is in almost every of our shopping centers, and people are frustrated. You walk into our shopping centers and you don't see quality retail. So we said, why do we need public storage in our shopping centers? We don't. We are going to put them in the industrial zone. In addition, the ones that are already approved and moving in the process, we want them to create a community space, because we don't necessarily need a public storage facility to look like public storage, like a storage facility. It takes away from the look of our shopping center. So create a community space, almost a space that people can come in and take advantage of nonprofit activities and things like that. And we also address gas stations. Now, we hear everyone say a Royal Farms at every corner. I mean, even within a certain mile radius in my house, I can drive to 3 different Royal Farms. So what we're doing is we're actually putting forth a process where any other gas stations have to go through a special exception approval process with the new zoning. The old zoning ordinance really allowed a lot of the problems that we see now. And finally, we looked at a pause on townhome developments in certain areas. We have an oversaturation of townhomes at every corner. Townhome is dense development. What people don't understand is that resources have to come with it. If you're going to put 300-400 homes on a certain acreage on a small 2-lane road, now you got to upgrade those roads. Now you got to put the schools there. For one traffic stoplight, we're looking at $1 million. That's how much it costs. And if you do, and then for everything upgrade that we do, the schools that we need to, all of those things, Prince George's County pays the money.
Right.
And there's a bigger part. We have a $5 billion budget and almost 1 million people. Wow. And our predecessors looked at that, and they decided we're allowed all types of retails in. But no, we're going to limit the type of retail, but we're going to realize that we're also going to limit the development so we can control our dollars. Washington, D.C. has a $20 billion budget and only 700,000 people. We have 300,000 more people, and we have 4 times less.
Wow.
And even in Montgomery County, they're looking at $2-3 billion more. And they have around the same people, maybe a little more. So at this point, we're stretching our dollar. So it's time to focus our development.
Absolutely. And I think this council, the People's Council, are the ones to get it done. So, we are just excited about that and the work that you all will continue to push forward. And so I want to ask you a question. There was a bill passed at the state level in regards to shopping centers and the way that they look and how they upkeep their appearance. And so how at the county level will you all implement that to make sure that our shopping, because that's one of the concerns that we hear, right, is that we want better stores to come, retail stores to come to our area. But the way that our shopping centers currently look, some of them, these stores don't want to come because of the way that those shopping centers look. And so now that this legislation has passed, it seems like that will help us, where there is an onus on the landowners of those shopping centers to change the way that they look so that we can bring in quality stores.
Well, I would say this: we already have requirements on the books at the county level for upkeep. The problem is that enforcement. And what we're finding, we're actually at budget right now, and we're sitting before DPI, where we have DPI coming, which does our code enforcement. And if people hear about shopping centers, they're even going to complain about the homes through our development that are not keeping up the code and no one's saying anything. Well, the reality is that we are so short in staff at DPI that it is like if a shopping center, most of these shopping center owners, some of the biggest violators really don't live here. They are up in Florida somewhere, California, and they own there. So they really don't have that pressure unless we put the pressure on them as a county. So what we're looking at is our DPI enforcement. We have about 40-something openings with a high number of people leaving. The reality is that in the county, you get paid a lot less, and we're seeing that throughout all of the county agencies. We're often having a high turnover because our salary is low, that people can go to surrounding jurisdictions. I mean, we're competing with jurisdictions, especially even with people who live here. If you can live in Prince George's County, you can live in Montgomery, you can live in DC. So we are competing especially with employees. So we're losing employees to other jurisdictions because they pay more, like Fairfax. Right. So what we're trying to do at this budget hearing that we had this week, actually, we had an oversight hearing at DPI on Monday, where we asked them, what could we do to make sure that we get the proper pay of the staff there so that they could do the work, so that we will have an active member of the county government making sure that we enforce the standards that have been set by the landlords. Because you can put the laws in place like we're doing with tobacco stores, but if you don't have enforcement, it just doesn't matter. So that's really how we're trying to address that issue, because we actually have a lot of standards on the books, but the actual upkeep of the shopping centers really have to be the work of our DPI. And I would say this: we have a lot of shopping centers, too many. We have over 250 shopping centers, and only a good amount of them are actually functioning where people are actively moving. So we have a lot of shopping centers that are really just not very active, run down, and all of those things. So we have, whoever's doing that work has a lot of work to do.
Now, are there any incentives for these positions at these agencies for people who live in Prince George's County to actually live, work, and play in Prince George's County? What incentives will there be?
It would have to be pay. That's what we're finding out. Okay. Prince George's County has such a high cost of living that, and actually, when I actually represented the nurses in the District of Columbia before I took this job at the council, and one thing we noticed is that almost all of our membership, almost 70% of our membership lived in the county, but they worked in DC because they got paid a lot more. So I even looked at, when I was at the oversight hearing this week has been busy with Department of Health. One thing I actually noted to them is is that we were looking at a community health nurse position that was paid around $68,000 to $78,000. That same job, you can get paid six figures in the District of Columbia. So really the biggest incentive that you can provide is the pay, because if you're gonna live at a house that's worth $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in Prince George's County plus, you need to be able to pay your bills, and money talks. So if you can get paid $20,000 to $30,000 more in DC, Montgomery County, or Alexandria, that's where you're going.
Right. We're losing our talent.
We're losing our talent, and they live right here. And they're not really moving, they're just traveling. And actually, when you look at the overall number, and this was more defined pre-pandemic, now pandemic, people are working from home, but we will lose 60% of the people in our county were leaving the county to go to work. And what now I'm finding out, looking at these agency reviews, is that a lot of it has to do with simply pay. Meaning I can go to federal government and make six figures to the same thing that if I worked in the county, I'll make $70,000. Well, I'm gonna go to DC, I'm gonna go to Virginia, I'm gonna go there because I could make more money and I could just come back home to Prince George's County. And that's actually where we're having a problem. If we wanna get the quality retail, we need people to work in the county. We need that daytime traffic. So this is one of the things to help with that, is that we have our county agencies right here. Let's pay our people properly so that they will work in the county.
Absolutely. We will be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It.
Great. So I know that we talked just about, other jurisdictions, and I know that there is the transit-oriented development that is happening. And I understand that Metro has a deficit that they are working from, and that if it's not fully funded, they will, there may be transit-oriented development, but there may not be the transit or the staff to run the development. So what can the council do, or where is the push to ensure that we have this, we're making sure that Metro is funded so that our transit is operating and people are not being laid off or losing their jobs or anything like that?
Well, one of the biggest ways that we can contribute, we can always put more money in the pot, but the reality is that those are short-term solutions. The longer-term solution is building around transit. The problem is that our surrounding jurisdictions have done that, but we haven't. So now that people can work from home and do things, they're not jumping on the Metro, because if you're just in a county and you want to go somewhere, the Metro doesn't want to take you anywhere here. So what we're trying to do is develop around our Metro stations so that they can be used more beyond just going to work and going back. People could even come to the county and use the Metro, but they don't, because we don't have anything around our transit. Like, our transit has not much going on. If you really look at our transit, and Largo's a good example, we only have like the boulevard, but if you drive out, you got to kind of drive out of the Metro to start to do things in the county, and same for all of our metros. So that's why the Blue Line Corridor is really key, because what we're seeing in surrounding jurisdictions is one of the ways that they've able to attract a lot of the quality retail and just big economic centers is really building around the Metro station. So think about the fact that you could get off even at, DC has done it the best, right? They build around their metros have everything near it. So it's Navy Yard, even like throughout Farragut North, all of them. You walk out, you go to places that you want to go. Everything is close around there, and but the surrounding jurisdictions have even got smarter. But think about when you get off of Silver Spring Metro Station, you can go down the street, you can go to shop, you can go to work, you can do that. But when you get off at a Prince George's County a metro station. It really is just maybe houses down the street. That's it. So that's why the Blue Line corridor is going to start building some of development around it, that it keeps people there. Like for instance in Largo, we're looking at the amphitheater, we're looking at the cultural center / central library, we're looking at all of those places where if you want to go there, you can drive, but you can also maybe take the metro. And we want to bring things closer to the metro so that people can use it more. That creates more of a need for people to jump on the metro, to get on the metro. What metro is lacking now is ridership. And because pre-pandemic, they were already kind of struggles, but at least people were jumping, especially from Prince George's County, to go to work in DC and Virginia. Now you got all these people working from home, so they don't need to go there. So now with our metro stations, the ridership has dropped substantially. So what we're trying to do is build that metro. So look at New Carrollton is going to be a center. They're closing down at the Union Station. So now we're going to have a lot of movement through New Carrollton. And if someone lives there and they have businesses there and they have things, people are not only going to, people who live there say, if I want to go somewhere even outside of Prince George's County, I'm going to take the metro, which our ridership is low in Prince George's County. So that's the way we're going to change that.
Wow. You are like a strategic solution to so many issues. And so, it's just so wonderful to hear that on the various issues that we're facing in our county, you have a strategic solution for. You've done your research, you've listened to the community, and now you are working to address those things. And so it's just great.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Have someone who listens and actually truly takes it as a privilege to represent and serve the people of the community. So, we are grateful for you.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything that you would like to share with our viewers? Anything that's coming up? Any way that our viewers can remain engaged? And, please just share what you would like.
Yes, I wanted to tell people, one of the things we noticed when we first come into council, when we were looking at the exchange of gavel, one thing we noticed is that the list of the invitees, even on at the council's, from the council's office, was all developers and their lawyers. And what we say was going to change that culture, where the council becomes a place of people and residents, that they actually are able to come here and see what we're doing. Sometimes we're doing really important things and no residents are in the room. So we're actually asking residents to be a part of our process. During this budget season, we started to have more town halls. The town halls focus was to get people more engaged. We started off with the OCS, Office of Central Services. That focus was about businesses, because a lot of local businesses says, no seat at the table. We are not able to get a contract with the county. We don't know why, all of these things. So we had an oversight hearing where we invited small local business owners to come. And then we even had a minority MBE and small businesses event, which was packed. Close to 300 people stopped by. But that's the point, is like we want people to feel like they're part of this. We did DPI. We had room packed of people complaining about all of the DPI concerns that they've had in the community, where where they feel like they didn't get any response. And we've been doing a lot of these town halls so people can understand that we want to hear from you. As you know, that I mentioned that we have a bill on pausing townhomes in our community, certain areas. Why? Because of oversaturation and infrastructure issues. If someone says, I have a townhome here, there's more development coming, the roads haven't been upgraded for development, and now I don't feel like there's more traffic, and I don't feel like we have the support here. It's frustrating residents. Well, if it's frustrating you, we want to hear from you. So what we're asking you to do, send a support letter to your council member, come to the council hearing. We're going to be announcing council hearings, especially now when budget will be approved by the end of May, and we're going to be back at the hearings on legislation. Well, we want people to come to the council, express your concern, be a part of the process. And we really want people to do that, because what we found is that there's such low participation on the council from residents, and it's increasing because we're pushing people to do it. But what I would say is that we don't want people to feel that they don't have a seat at the table, and they do have a council that cares, so we want to hear from them.
Council that cares. That is so great. And so again, just thank you so much for sitting down with me today, for sharing with the listeners about how they can get engaged and participate, and the legislation that is truly affecting them, and what the council plans to do about it. So let me ask you a question about the crime, and especially young people. What alternative justice programs are available for them? What is coming from the state's attorney's office that you might know of to really support? Because with the pandemic and young people not being able to have the social life that they did when they were going to school regularly, and now coming out of a pandemic, dealing with the overdoses and the substance abuse, how are we supporting our young people in dealing with the challenges that they are facing, and even the parents to be able to be equipped to support the young people in their homes?
Well, one thing, I was at the State of the Justice last week, and one thing they talked about, they actually presented to us about this Saturday Justice program that they are planning, and really things like that is the answer to the problem. What we found is, in Prince George's County, most of our crime is property crime. It's not even homicides. Homicides are pretty low, even dropped. But property crime, carjackings, all of those things, robberies are high. And it's mostly the age of the perpetrators involved, 13 to almost 18 years old, all of our youth. And there's a correlation between those that are involved with that and those that are truant, not going to school, not really active in school, and going into our juvenile system. And so we need, and you know, the police officers that complain, one of the things that they've noticed is that when they call the parents of these kids, they usually don't even come to get them. So just total abandonment. So we really have a lot of kids that are struggling. That is why there has been such an increase in mental health and behavioral health services, even in the school system. You'll see that reflected in the budget. And even in our social services, there has been more effort to do the suicide hotline, to do counseling, to have those. We're trying to even increase the number of staffing at those levels so that we can support our youth. But more important, there needs to be a purposeful programming to address their concerns. So this is about getting the Saturday Justice Academy is supposed to not only catch them, but their parents, get their parents engaged. But it's focused on those kids that are truant, not really in school, not really active in school, to catch them. And that's the way that we're actually going to get down these carjackings. Now, there are other ways that they're trying to do it, but the reality is that there's only but so much time you could put a kid, or somebody who, especially juvenile, in jail for carjacking. Some people say, well, you know, just put them in jail, but we saw in the 90s.
Doesn't always help, and it makes the situation worse. And that's why I asked about the alternative programs, because a lot of the young people are facing challenges, and some of the parents don't know what to do, and that's why they
have given up,
and that's why they may leave them there, because they're at their wits' end, they seem, and they really just need support.
We are down police officers. Why? Because right now it's not very popular for, especially our young people, are seeing all of the national discussions on police officers and don't want to be police officers. So they have a hard recruitment problem. I don't know if you know, looked in DC. DC is offering $25,000 bonuses for people to join the police force. And we're going to have to consider something like that, because we have over 100 openings. And right now we have a lot of our police officers on overtime. And so, and we don't necessarily want them, because we pay money for overtime. We'd rather have a full FTE in place, because that's more people on the street.
So that's our show for today. And I know you got to run to a meeting, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. Let's Talk About It is here to educate, uplift, inspire, and motivate people all over the world. I am your host, January McKay, and we'll see you next time on Let's Talk About It.
you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason. Thank you.
A place to make my own, a place that I call home, this place that I call home.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Let's Talk About It is here to communicate, educate, motivate, uplift, and inspire people all over the world. See you next time. Let's talk about it.